So this is Bitcoin markets, and 2 days ago I actually traded this Bitcoin market, and I actually had a loss. In fact, I think the loss was around $100, thereabout 1% of my funded account. But right now I am I am currently on this trade. Okay, so and I want to explain the trade idea to you. It is based on my setup 2 days ago, because 2 days ago I could remember that. In fact, I actually document it on my channel, so you can watch it. So I actually projected that price might actually respect this supply zone, but eventually price actually took me out. So, and 2 days ago I actually said that I'm expecting reversal in trend in the market, because on 4 hour time frame I can see very clear as day that price has been creating, price has been creating lower lows and lower highs. As you can see that price has actually shifted from buying to selling. So price has been creating lower lows, lower highs. So this is the trade bias based on supply and demand and liquidity concept. So now what did I see at this zone? Because this is a valid 1 hour 1 hour supply zone, although I am currently on 4 hour, but the trade identity aligns with 1 hour. Okay, so even if I come to 1 hour, so this particular zone right there, it actually caused a break of structure to the downside. You can see this is 1 hour break of structure. So from there price has been finding its way back to this 1 hour supply zone before it continue to push to the downside. So that is my confluences to trade this Bitcoin market. So today, what are the confluences that I actually observe before I enter this trade? So I actually go down to 15 minutes, right? All right, so I went down to 15 minutes, and I actually observed something. Okay, so and you can see that currently this is the 1 hour supply zone, right? So let me just zoom my screen. So I observed that, okay, this is the 1 hour supply zone, although I even went down to 5 minutes, because my mentor usually says something that um, whatever happens on the higher time frame must have first happen on the lower time frame. So you see that when price actually approach this 1 hour supply zone, we can see a change of character, okay, which I called market shift. So you see that when price was creating higher highs, higher low, then higher highs. So when price created this high, price came all the way down to break this low, giving us a 5 minute break of structure and 5 minute market shift. So immediately we have this shift in trend. All right, so this is when price actually started to push to the downside, because if I mark my 5 minutes supply zone from this zone now, you will see that you know price actually came all the way down. So after price, let me just indicate it. After price came all the way up here, drop down, you can see that price was actually creating lower lows, lower highs, lower low, lower highs, but at a point in time price actually find its way back to this 5 minute supply zone before it continued to skyrocket to the downside. So that is how price actually flow, and currently you see that immediately price actually tap into this 5 minutes. Okay, immediately price tap into this 5 minute supply zone, price actually came all the way down, then it retested the 5 minute supply zone again, then it started to push to the downside, creating lower lows, lower highs, lower low, lower highs, then it breaks structure right there. So it means that um we have a valid supply zone around here, because this is a 15-minute break of structure to the downside, right? So definitely above here is our is the starting point of this, selling momentum. So, and that is what I actually analyzed this afternoon before I actually enter this trade. So now let me explain the trade idea to you, how I my confluences before I actually enter this trade. So I came down to 5 minutes. Okay, so I see that, okay, this is my 15-minute supply zone, right? So when I say that, okay, that is my 15-minute supply zone, and I see my trading plan being worked out as well. So I see that price was creating higher highs, higher low, then this is the last high. Then at this point in time, price could not continue to push to the upside. So what price did is that price simply came all the way down here, okay, breaking this low, giving us a 5-minute market shift. So when we have this market shift, you can see that actually price actually came all the way, came all the way up here. We're expecting this 5-minute supply zone, and immediately price keeps pushing to the downside, giving us, internal 5-minute break of structure. So, and I think I entered at 15 minutes. I can't remember if it was at 5 minutes time zone that I actually entered this trade. But okay, so based on what we're actually seeing here, so it means that I entered this trade around here, right? I entered this trade around here. So I set my stop loss above this supply zone. Okay, so I set my stop loss above that zone, and currently I am, I'm not in drawdown right now. I'm currently running in profit. So, and this trade, sincerely, I know that this trade is going to actually work out. In fact, I actually want to target this low because I know that price is, heavily in a bearish momentum. So I know that there are a lot of liquidity being built up here at these lows. Okay, so these are liquidity being built up at this low. So I know that if price is pushing to the downside, I know for sure that price is going to sweep all this liquidity. So my intention is that I want to take my profits at this 4-hour demand zone. Yeah, at this 4-hour demand zone. So that is where I want to actually take my profits. Or instead, I can simply say that, okay, for me to be more conservative. All right, so let me just indicate it right now that this is my TP1. So when price got to this point, I will ensure that I take my profits around there. So when I take my profit around there, I will see how price is going to react at that zone. Then my second TP is going to be here, so TP2, and so this is going to be my TP3. Okay, so this is going to be my TP3. So this is my trade idea about the Bitcoin market. So, and I have this strong belief that I'm going to win this trade. Yeah. I know I'm going to win this trade. So, let us see how this is going to play out. Okay, so I know that for some days right now, or let me say for the past week right now, I've not been, I've been having losses back to back. In fact, even the gold trade that I took today, this afternoon, in fact, in less than 30 minutes, I run at loss. But it is what it is. So, but that actually didn't, stop me from knowing what I'm doing. Okay, so I actually know what I'm doing because I'm ensuring that I'm following my trading plan. So, and one of the things that I have observed in Bitcoin markets is that it's not really as fast as that Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, so we should not expect high volatility unlike gold usually does. Okay, so I know that this is going to take a while, so I'm going to leave this trade to run till. Good morning, traders. So right now I'm waking up this morning to actually see the progress of this trade. So this is BTCUSD. Okay, so I entered yesterday evening, right? So, and this trade has taken about how many hours right now? It has taken about 13 hours 45 minutes. Yeah, 13 hours 45 minutes, and I'm currently running in profit. All right, so, and you know, I just have this strong belief. I know, in fact, I have this strong belief that this is going to be a win trade. I know that for sure because all my confluences has been checked, and I just believe that this is going to be a, and although this today is Friday, right? So sincerely, this trade is going to be it's going to be slow. Yeah, it's going to be slow. I know that because this is going to be slow. I know that for sure that it's going to be slow. But regardless, I want to, because this BTC is quite different from gold, because gold actually move faster than any other currency out there. Okay, so but with my experience trading the Bitcoin, so I know that is kind of slow. So, and I know that when trade is slow like this, it's actually, I can say that it's actually building someone's discipline. It's actually building trader discipline to actually, adapt to market changes. I mean, to market conditions, regardless of, of how you feel. So I know that this trade is going to actually so let me just quickly again, because I'm I know that this is going to be a profitable trade. I know that. So you can see we have a break of structure to the upside. In fact, another thing that I observe is that sometimes when we are trading, and sometimes when our trading plan is not fully aligning with our with the trade that we want to take, we will shall take the trade. Like, we will just take the trade. We will not even, we will just assume that, oh, all my trading plan has aligned. But sometimes when you are looking at your trading, when you are looking at your setup, and you are saying that, oh, this setup actually aligns with my trading plan, then I don't think that I don't think that you know I don't think that there is need to actually hesitate to take that trade. So I know that this trade actually aligns with my trading plan, because I can see a clear break of structure to the upside and a break of the higher low, right? And that's already, I signify that price has changed from buying to selling, and that is why I actually take this trade. And if you look at the progress of this trade, you see that price is actually in fact, currently, price actually make a break of structure to the upside there. So I can say that this is 15 minutes break of structure, right? So, and what price is currently reacting to is, more like price is respecting this the supply zone. Yeah, this supply zone. So this is what price is actually doing right now. So price is reacting to this 15 minute supply zone before it starts to push to the downside. Then it's going to create another break of structure. Then price is selling, so it will be creating lower lows and lower highs, lower low and lower highs. And if there is more liquidity in the market, price will just keep selling to the downside, reverse a little bit and selling to the downside, something like that. So that is what I'm actually I envision about this trade. And so probably in the afternoon today, probably by 2 o'clock, or I don't know when I'm free, sha. So I will ensure that I monitor this trade. So, and I already set my take profits as well. So I actually have three point of interest to take my profits. So this is the first TP, because this place is a valid demand zone. So it is likely that when price reach this zone, price might actually, when price reach this zone, price might actually reverse a little bit before it continue pushing to the downside, because of these liquidity zones that we have below right there. So this is what this is my trading plan, and I know that this is going to be a profitable trade. So traders, stay true to yourself, and let us see this the results of this trade together. All right, so I eventually lose this trade once again. So this week I've had about 3 losses in a row. And my funded account is in a drawdown right now, really, really. But I'll keep believing. Yeah, I'll keep believing, because this is not the end of the road. I know that one understanding that I have about the financial market is that price does not react randomly. So price usually have, I can say that price usually have, price move in structure, right? So, and I also believe that it is not every time that my trading plan will actually, play out. And knowing this, I think that is one of the most important things to actually know in trading. And having this loss, like currently my account is, you know my account is in a drawdown. Okay. So, and another belief that I have is that I'm not going to lose that account. So I know that these losses that I have had this week is going to actually make me to actually go and, um, practice more, and to also backtest a little bit before I continue to trade my funded accounts. All right. So we are doing this for a long term. Like, I have a long time mindset for trading. So I know that um, in a couple of months or some days or some weeks, or I know that this is I can say that currently I am not consistently profitable. Yeah, I know that. But I also believe that after I implement my trading plan, that I follow my trading plan religiously, I know that it's going to work out. So I've come to the extent that I don't just take random trade. Okay. So all these losing trade that I have had this week, I actually ensure that I follow my trading plan, even though it might not be 100%, but I know that I follow my trading plan, um 80 to 90%. Yeah, 80 to 90%. So, but it is what it is. So we have to actually hope for a better days. And I believe that everything is going to work out very soon. And another thing I learned about, you know when you are losing, is that is that losses are losses are a moment in time. Even both winning and losses, they are a moment in time. It simply means that when you are having losing streak, that doesn't mean that you cannot trade the next day, okay, or the next week. So losing streak is a moment in time whereby it is a call for you to actually backtest, you know for you to backtest, review your trading plan, journal your trade very well. And by doing that, you are going to know the reason why you have been losing, which I have been doing as well, actually. So that is something that I believe about trading. And as I said earlier, I have a very long time mindset for trading. So there is no room sorry so there is no room for quitting. In fact, there is no room for quitting at all. So um it is what it is. So I just hope that you find this video helpful, and in one way or the other, you also is trying your best to be a profitable trader out there. So until I see you in my next video, take care of yourself.